What would you do if you woke up one morning with nothing? No home, no allies, no power, and the only land to your name was a death trap on the edge of the world? Because that is exactly where Levi Lewis found himself. And what he built from that wreckage would shake the entire frontier. It started with a splitting headache and the smell of a moving carriage. Levi opened his eyes to an unfamiliar sky, an old man fussing over him, and absolutely no idea where he was. The carriage jolted into a rut and stopped dead, and when he climbed out to look around, all he saw was flat wasteland and armored soldiers standing at attention. That was when the panic set in. The last thing he remembered was Earth, a breakup, too much alcohol, a bar fight, and a bottle cracking against the back of his skull. After that, nothing. Then the memories hit him all at once. A flood of someone else's life pouring straight into his brain. He had transmigrated into the Noah continent, a world of beast men, elves, dwarves, sea folk, undead, and dragons. A world of knights, warriors, and mages, locked in a cycle of endless war. The body he now occupied belonged to another Levi, Levi Lewis, second son of a minor baron in the Alpha Kingdom. His father had just died, and his older brother had inherited everything and thrown him out without a second thought. So the original Levi had packed up his old servant Charlie and set off for Tulip City to carve out a future. There, he caught the eye of Martian's Angelus Tulip, a celebrated beauty who married him for a very specific reason. She needed a husband on paper, someone decorative enough to satisfy tradition, but weak enough to never challenge her authority. The original Levi fit the role perfectly right up until the wedding banquet, where he got completely wasted and made a humiliating spectacle of himself. In front of the entire nobility, Angelus was furious. She handed him a barren title, a remote piece of land, and sent him packing, but she did not divorce him, which was its own kind of trap. The land sounded like a gift until the original Levi found out exactly where it was. Northeast border territory, right on the front line against the beast men. He fainted from the shock and never woke up again. That was when the transmigrator took over. The new Levi could not help but laugh bitterly at the situation. Both of them had lost everything because of women and bad decisions involving alcohol. What a pair they made. But after thinking it through, he made a choice. Accept the situation, adapt, survive. The world was fascinating, his new body was young and strong, and the alternative was despair. He set himself one small goal to start with: just stay alive. The old servant Charlie turned out to be the one person he could fully trust. Charlie had been left to the original Levi by his mother before she died, and had raised the boy from childhood. Even after the exile, even after everything, Charlie never left his side. When he realized Levi was actually talking again, making sense again, he nearly wept with relief. Levi had apparently spent days in a half-conscious, zombie-like state ever since learning about the territory's location. Charlie begged him to turn back, to head for the capital and contest the assignment. Several barons before him had already died at this posting, but going back was not an option. Levi had pieced together the full picture from the original body's memories. Angelus Tulip was not just beautiful, she was ruthless. She had fought off her own uncles to claim her family title after her father died. And she had married Levi specifically to block ambitious nobles from controlling her through matrimony. Once the marriage was secured, she engineered his disgrace at the wedding to justify sending him away, with no claim to her territory. The dangerous location of his assigned land, though, that part was probably someone else's doing. Killing Levi directly would give Angelus grounds to retaliate, but if he ran off to the border and died playing hero, well, that was nobody's fault. Going back meant surrendering the title, and without the title, even Angelus's protection meant nothing. Going forward meant walking into a graveyard that had already claimed multiple barons before him. He was right in the middle of calculating a third option: disappear entirely. Use his modern knowledge to build a quiet new life somewhere safe. When the first extraordinary thing happened, a danger warning flashed in his mind. Then a panel materialized before his eyes, clean and impossible and absolutely real. Name: Levi Lewis. Flame-breathing method: beginner apprentice knight. 79 out of 100. Flame // beginner, 8 out of 10. Horsemanship, beginner, 3 out of 10. Super precognition, basic, 0 out of 100. 1 passive danger warning per day, 1 kilometer range, 3-day advance notice. Plus, the ability to sense hostility from nearby people. Energy essence, 0. The transmigrator's cheat ability had finally arrived. Levi stared at it for a long moment, then started grinning. The system worked simply and brutally in his favor. He needed to raise his flame-breathing method to 101 to awaken his life seed and break through to full night. No rare life source liquid required. No powerful family connections, nothing. Even better, he would earn one attribute point every single day. As long as he stayed alive long enough, there was no rank he could not eventually reach. Sky Knight, Holy Knight, even legendary. His innate talent was already awakened before he had even become a real knight, which was something that happened to perhaps one in hundreds. And the system hinted there would be more to awaken in the future, something reportedly unheard of in the entire Alpha Kingdom. Poor old Charlie, watching Levi burst out laughing for no visible reason, clearly thought the young master had lost his mind all over again. But before Levi could even explain, the precognition talent fired off its first real warning. 55 bandits were hiding in the bushes roughly 1 kilometer ahead. Among them, 1 first-rank warrior, 5 elite soldiers, and the rest ordinary fighters. Levi ordered the driver to stop and climb down from the carriage. Knight Captain Clay, leading the 12-man escort lent by Angelus Tulip for 2 years, was visibly annoyed. These were Tulip family knights, professionals assigned against their will to a posting that had killed every baron before it. Their attitude toward the young lord they were escorting was somewhere between cold and contemptuous. Levi pointed out that the bushes ahead were completely silent, not a single bird or insect calling. Clay paused, looked, and realized in an instant that something was wrong. He actually apologized, left 2 knights to guard Levi, and took the other 10 forward in battle formation. Levi wanted to go with them. His system said he could only earn energy essence by personally killing supernatural profession holders and absorbing their soul power. And there was a first-rank warrior ahead, a perfect target. But he was still an apprentice knight. Common sense won out. Stay back, stay alive, get stronger first. Up ahead, the bandits realized they had been spotted and charged out, only to discover too late that the escorts were not mercenaries in fancy gear, as someone had told them, but real battle-hardened knights. Clay and his men cut down 11 bandits in their first charge. When the bandit leader tried to sneak attack Clay from behind, Clay took his head off without breaking stride. The fight lasted minutes. When it was over, Clay reported 23 killed, 6 escaped, 27 captured, and his attitude toward Levi had noticeably shifted. Someone had hired those bandits with false information about the escorts. That meant someone was already working to ensure Levi never reached his territory alive. Levi sat the knights down and said it plainly. He told them he knew they resented being dragged to a dangerous frontier because of him, and that they had every right to. The territory swap was not his doing, and someone was actively sabotaging all of them. If they worked together for the next 2 years, maybe they could all survive. Clay exchanged looks with the other knights, then gave a formal answer and promised they would do their duty. Something had shifted. They were not allies yet, but they were no longer strangers pointing fingers. 5 days of travel later, through Viscount Leon's territory, where Levi sold the captured bandits for supplies, the convoy finally reached Grey Fortress. The fortress sat between Grey Mountains in a position that the beast men had fought for centuries to prevent being built. It housed the 8th Battalion of the Northeast Legion, commanded by a 5th-rank silver knight named Klein. Levi arrived expecting supplies. What he got was an insult wrapped in official packaging. The quartermaster Roland led him to a reeking camp and presented what the kingdom called the standard settlement package for new frontier barons. 1,000 serfs, all elderly, women, and small children. Not a single able-bodied man among them. 50 elite soldiers who looked like they had not eaten properly in months. Equipment pulled from a junkyard. Quantities short of regulation across the board. Clay was ready to explode on the spot, but Levi kept his expression calm. Someone above Roland had arranged this. That much was obvious. And that meant the real game had not even started yet. Instead of making demands, Levi played a different card entirely. He told Roland very pleasantly that since he was personally responsible for the supplies, he would need Roland to sign an official document listing everything received. As the husband of Marchioness Tulip, Levi was obligated to report all assets to her. The moment Angelus's name left Levi's mouth, Roland nearly fell apart. He knew what signing that document meant. The Marchioness herself could come after him personally. Levi watched the man sweat, and then let him off easy. He accepted the supplies in principle, announced he was not leaving the fortress just yet, tossed Roland a gold coin as a storage fee, and walked away. Clay was baffled. He thought Levi had given in too easily. Levi explained. Pressuring a quartermaster was pointless. The real play was staying put. Nobody could force him to leave on a schedule only the royal court could enforce. If he showed up late to storm territory, then it became a capital-level issue. Angelus would find out about everything. The fortress commanders definitely did not want that. What Levi did not say out loud was his second reason for staying. He already had 7 attribute points saved up. In 15 more days, he would have enough to break through to full night. Every extra day inside the safety of the fortress was another day closer to being significantly harder to kill. So they rented a large courtyard, settled in, and that evening Levi had old Charlie buy plenty of wine and meat for everyone. They had all earned a real meal. The next morning, he checked his panel. 8 attribute points, 14 more days. He decided to use the waiting time productively and went to the fortress's slave market with Charlie, Clay, and 6 knights. He needed skilled workers for the new territory, blacksmiths, carpenters, stonemasons, bricklayers. He had modern knowledge in his head, but his old life on Earth had been spent in sales, not construction. He knew theory. He needed people who could actually build things. The slave market was a nightmare to walk through. Filthy cages, dead-eyed people sitting in the dirt, the smell of waste and misery everywhere. He forced himself to keep a straight face and focus. After half an hour of searching, he found a weasel-faced merchant named Quint with exactly the craftsmen he needed. 2 veterinarians, 3 carpenters, 5 bricklayers for stonemasons, 5 blacksmiths, negotiated to 450 gold coins. When Clay mentioned offhandedly that Levi was the new Baron of Storm Territory, Quint's expression flickered. A Baron headed for a known death trap apparently earned genuine pity discounts. Quint even offered to include the slaves' families at no charge, which turned out to mean to middle-aged women and to scrawny children. Everyone else was conveniently single. Levi kept his cool, made sure the trader knew he had noticed, left 250 gold as a deposit, and told him to keep the slaves fed for a couple of weeks. Then he drifted over to the non-human section, and that is when everything suddenly got dangerous. A white wolf subhuman woman was sitting in a cage near the back. Blue eyes, pointed ears, stunning in a way that made it genuinely hard to look away. Levi was about to ask her price when his precognition talent fired off a warning. So sharp it nearly made him flinch. 4th-rank Great Warrior, hidden strength, intense hostility. Only for people in the entire Grey Fortress were that powerful. The trader was offering her for just 1,000 gold, absurdly cheap for someone with that level of power, which meant something was very, very wrong. Levi shook his head, grabbed Clay's arm, and got out of that market as fast as he could without running. Back at their lodgings, he sat Clay down and explained what his talent had detected. A 4th-rank Great Warrior hiding inside the fortress posing as a slave, radiating hostility strong enough to feel through a precognition ability. She was almost certainly an inside agent, planned to help a beast man force attack Grey Fortress from within. Clay was shaken. They needed to report it, but the question was who they could trust. Someone in command had already been working against Levi since before he arrived. Levi gave Clay 10 gold coins and sent him to get information out of the trader Quint, then spent the rest of the day training. Clay returned that evening with enough background on the fortress's leadership to make a call. Battalion Commander Klein came from the Lincoln Duke family in the Northwest. No connection to the southern political games targeting Levi. Deputy Commander Odin was from a Viscount family with capital connections, and he was the same man who had shorted the supplies. Klein was the safest bet. The next morning, Levi walked into Klein's office and after clearing the room, said it plainly. There is a beast man spy inside this fortress. A 4th-rank Great Warrior disguised as a subhuman slave. Klein shot to his feet. He explained that Grey Fortress had magic detection arrays at both gates. Every supernatural professional had to register entering. Someone that powerful sneaking and should have been impossible. Levi told him the woman probably had a magic item hiding her true strength, and suggested Klein go verify for himself quietly without confronting her, or the slave market would get destroyed in the fight and Klein would have to explain how a spy slipped through his defenses. That warning made Klein look at Levi very differently. He left to investigate and came back over an hour later with a grim face and a formal noble's bow. It was all confirmed. He asked how Levi had detected her. Levi lied smoothly, crediting equipment from the Tulip family. Let Klein assume Angelus had secret arrangements watching over her husband. That assumption cost nothing and built exactly the reputation Levi needed. Klein bought it completely and even started theorizing about it out loud, which was perfect. Then came the real negotiation. Klein admitted he was stuck. The woman was to alert to capture quietly, and if things went messy, Odin would use the political fallout against him. Levi saw his opening and presented his plan. Watch the wolf woman. Wait for her to signal that her beast man allies were moving. Then issue a military order sending Odin outside the fortress to search for beast man activity. With Odin gone, Klein could frame the entire situation as a deliberate ambush he had constructed, with Odin's mission being to cut off the retreating enemy. If the beast men outside escaped Odin's patrol, that became Odin's failure, not Klein's oversight. Klein's eyes lit up with something between relief and admiration. The plan solved every problem at once. It covered the intelligence failure, created a plausible victory narrative, and gave Klein leverage over his rival. He agreed on the spot, invited Levi to lunch, and told him to stay at the fortress as long as he needed. Once Odin was dealt with, Klein would personally arrange supplies better than anything the regulations required. That was an unexpected bonus. 10 days passed inside the fortress. Levi spent them in the training courtyard, almost without leaving. His breathing technique crept up through daily practice. His basic archery unlocked on the panel after reaching beginner level, and most importantly, his attribute points climbed steadily toward 20. On the morning he hit that number, he locked himself in his room, told Charlie not to disturb him until afternoon, and sat down for the most important moment of his new life. He dumped 19 attribute points into the flame-breathing method. What happened next hit him like a wave breaking over a wall. Years of compressed training experience flooded his mind all at once, vivid and completely real, as if he had actually lived through every single practice session. Then his body started changing. His muscles firmed and radiated heat, his skin shed like a snake's, replaced by new skin with a faint transparent coating that boosted both physical and magical defense. And then his heart. It started pounding faster, pulling every scrap of energy in his body toward it. The pain was extraordinary, like his chest was trying to collapse inward. He lost track of time completely. Then, after one final wave of agony, his heart stabilized, reversed, and began pumping power outward through his blood into every part of his body. He had done it. First rank night, the supernatural threshold crossed. He opened his eyes and stood up, and the difference was immediate and staggering. He could genuinely beat 10 of his former selves. The whole process had taken barely an hour, but checking his panel afterward, the next milestone showed itself plainly. Flame-breathing method now reads 0 out of 1,000. The road ahead had gotten dramatically longer. Reaching second rank on attribute points alone would take nearly 3 years. Out here on a dangerous frontier, that was too slow. He needed energy essence, and that meant killing supernatural enemies with his own hands. The coming Beastman attack would be his opportunity. Since he had 0 killing experience and was still a complete rookie in real combat, he planned to focus on archery. Sniping from a distance was significantly safer than fighting face-to-face with warriors who had trained for years. For 5 days he practiced archery almost without stopping, hiding the breakthrough entirely. Whoever had been plotting against him was still out there, and keeping cards hidden was the only sensible strategy. On the 5th day, Quartermaster Roland showed up again trying to pressure him about the supplies. Odin was clearly getting impatient. Levi had Clay throw Roland out. Then that night was woken by another system warning. In 3 days, 2 battalions of Jackal Beast men would attack Grey Fortress, coordinating with the White Wolf woman inside. Among them 2 5th rank warriors for 4th rank warriors, and enough fighters below that to make it a serious siege. The next morning, Levi went straight to Klein and passed along the intelligence, crediting it to Tulip family sources. Klein recognized immediately that the beast men could not stay hidden near the fortress much longer, without being detected through other means. He issued orders that same day sending Odin and 3 companies northeast to search for beastman activity. Odin was furious, accusing Klein of disrupting military order, leveraging their personal conflict. Klein pulled rank, and that was the end of the argument. Odin marched out, spitting with rage, swearing he would file a formal complaint afterward. The trap was set. Klein assured Levi the remaining 700 soldiers could hold the fortress against 2,000 Jackal Beast men. Beastmen were notoriously terrible at siege warfare. That was reassuring. Levi just needed to survive and find his first real kill. He used the remaining days pushing his basic archery hard. 3 skill points through training, then 8 attribute points dumped all at once. The rush of compressed practice was the same flood he had felt during the night breakthrough. Thousands of arrows fired across seasons of imagined practice, every muscle, every angle, absorbed in moments. When he opened his eyes, he walked to the range and put an arrow clean through a target at 20 meters, piercing straight into the wall behind it. 10 more shots, 10 bullseye eyes. The knights watching nearby went quiet in a way that meant something. At the fortress's proper archery range, he hit 7 out of 10 at 50 meters and 3 out of 10 at 100. Elite marksman level. The same as squad leaders who had trained for years. Then came the night the fortress went to war. Near midnight, combat erupted in the North District. The Wolf Woman had made her move. Levi waited, not rushing toward a battle between mid-rank fighters. The sounds shifted east, then went quiet. Then the North Gate lit up in fire, horns blared, and the full siege began. When Levi reached the North Gate with his night squad, The gate was shut, and the ground outside was littered with jackal beastmen corpses. Klein had let some through deliberately before closing it, making the ambush look perfectly executed. Levi took his squad west, as far from the 5th rank battle near Klein as he could get. Deputy Commander Corey assigned them to the 4th Company, about 80 soldiers, 8 professionals, and already in serious trouble. Jackal professionals had climbed the wall and more were pouring up from below. The moment Levi arrived, a 1st rank jackal pulled himself over the top of the wall. Without thinking, he drew and fired. The arrow hit the jackal's throat perfectly. It grabbed its neck in disbelief and fell backward off the wall. A wisp of white light drifted from its body and flowed into Levi. He checked the panel. 1 energy essence point. It worked, then reality caught up with him. That first shot had been pure instinct. Now that he was actually looking at the chaos around him, his hands started shaking. This was his first real battle. Company Commander Peel shouted for him to take out the other 1st rank jackals on the wall. Levi steadied his breath and shot another one through the eye. Clay intercepted a 2nd rank jackal that charged straight at Levi. And despite being only 1st rank himself, his superior tulip family equipment allowed him to push it back. The jackals below started hurling stones with slings. Soldiers dropped around Levi. One of his own knights took a rock to the chest. The armor saved him. But Levi's legs went weak watching how close death had just come. When the soldiers started retreating, Peel went all out. He took a sword hit, unleashed a holy cross slash that cut down a 2nd rank jackal in 1 strike, then rallied his troops with a battle cry that cut through the noise like a blade. Levi kept shooting, picking off jackals climbing the wall, sending half his knights to reinforce the defense. Then he spotted the last 2nd rank jackal trying to escape by jumping off the wall, falling through open air with nowhere to dodge. He turned and put an arrow straight through its heart. Another wisp of white light, larger this time, flowed into him. Another wave came, this one including a 3rd rank jackal. Levi fired 5 or 6 arrows and could not stop it from reaching the top. Just when it seemed like the wall would be lost, Peel pulled out a hand crossbow glowing blue, fired a magical bolt, and the 3rd rank jackal simply exploded against the stone. After that, the jackals pulled back. Levi almost stuck his head over the parapet to snipe retreating enemies for more energy essence, and Clay yanked him back half a second before a volley of sling stones came flying up from below. That would have been the end of him. He thanked Clay with complete sincerity. He owed the man one. When the stones stopped, the all-clear came, and Levi started picking off retreating jackals in the darkness. The professionals had hidden themselves among regular troops, so in the dark he could only hit the ordinary ones. Peel pushed them all immediately to reinforce the 9th Company, where jackals had broken through another wall section. Levi followed with his knight squad and helped push them back. He personally killed another 1st rank jackal, and Clay killed one, too. After the wall sections were cleared, the other defensive lines pushed back as well. The north gate opened. The 8th Battalion's elite cavalry charged out and tore through the retreating jackals, like a wave through dry grass. Their 4th rank Commander Rock cut through everything in front of him, killing 6 or 7 jackal professionals in 1 run. Klein, seeing the 2 5th rank jackal leaders momentarily distracted by the cavalry charge, seized the opening and killed one outright. The other panicked and fled, jumping off the wall to escape into the darkness. The recall horn sounded. The cavalry pulled back. Silence fell over Grey Fortress, and then the soldiers on the walls erupted in cheering. That was when the adrenaline drained out of Levi all at once. He looked around at the severed limbs, the blood pooled on the stone, the smell that no description could quite capture. He crouched in a corner and threw up everything in his stomach. His knights watched with odd expressions, but not one of them laughed. They told him afterward that their own first battles had been 10 times worse, and that they were impressed he had held it together through the entire fight, before breaking down at the end. Commander Peel found him still pale and dry-heaving afterward. He was visibly shocked when Levi introduced himself as Baron of Storm Territory. He saluted formally and promised to record every battle achievement accurately. The Alpha Kingdom's merit system was the most incorruptible thing about it. Military judges sent directly from the capital, all commoners with no connections, stationed down to the company level. Anyone caught stealing or faking credit was executed on the spot. The next morning, Klein showed up grinning like a man who had just solved every problem he had ever had. 865 jackals killed, 35 professionals, 51 dead, 8 permanently injured on the fortress side. The biggest victory Grey Fortress had seen in years. Then Klein handed Levi his personal tally. Storm Territory's forces had killed 5 first-rank professionals, 1 second-rank professional, and 30 regular soldiers, 1 8th class merit and 6.5 9th class merits between them all. Levi personally earned 1 8th class merit and 3 9th class merits. Klein asked whether the Night Squad's merits should be recorded under Storm territory or Tulip territory. Levi made his decisions without hesitating. He converted Storm territory's collective merits into 15 first-rank explosive arrows. The Night Squad's collective merit went under Vice Captain Roger's name. Clay's merit went under Clay's own name. Clay tried to protest. Subordinates' merits normally went to the Lord. Levi cut him off. Under his command, first-year merits belonged to whoever earned them. Klein nodded with obvious approval. He also informed Levi that the 8th Battalion's collective merit would be significant, and that since Levi's group was not officially part of the battalion, they could not share in it. But he and Corey had already agreed to give them 500 gold as compensation, plus additional resources for Storm territory. Levi asked about the White Wolf woman. She had escaped. Rock had badly wounded her, but she was too fast and slipped over the wall before anyone could stop her. Klein traded the 8th class merit for a life source liquid, normally worth 1,000 to 1,500 gold on the black market, and Levi exchanged the 9th class merits for a first-rank magic crossbow. Klein even lent him one from his own stock immediately. Then Levi split the 500 gold with his team. 20 gold each for the 12 apprentice knights, 60 for Clay, 200 kept for the territory. Everyone was stunned by the generosity. Between the merit registered in their names and the gold, this one assignment was already more profitable for them than 10 years serving the Tulip family. Something had changed among them. Alone in his room afterward, Levi checked his panel. 13 energy essence points. The second-rank jackal had been worth 10 points alone, which meant a third-rank kill would give roughly 100, and 13 was just enough to awaken a new innate talent. He hit the random awakening button. Extreme speed, basic, 0 out of 100, doubles current attack speed, movement speed, reaction speed, and agility. He immediately spent 10 points on it. Combined with his archery and his precognition, he was becoming far more dangerous than his rank suggested on paper. A first-rank knight with double speed could fight a third-rank warrior in the right circumstances, and if things went badly, he could simply run. He went to bed satisfied and left the fortress the next morning before Odin could return. Klein had prepared the real supply package, the one he should have received from the start, and then some. 1,000 serfs, nearly all young and strong, for 100 tons of grain and 20 tons of preserved meat, 50 prime oxen including 15 breeding cows, 100 horses, 12 of them genuine military war horses, brand new iron armor, leather sets, weapons, all current military grade. The 50 elite soldiers were the real thing, battle-hardened veterans, with 10 disabled retirees from the 8th Battalion, included specifically to serve as drill instructors for the male serfs. Klein had thought of everything. Before the entire assembled force, Levi made them a promise. 30 gold coins for any regular soldier killed in action, paid over 30 years. Any professional who died in battle, the territory would train one of their children into a professional at its own expense. 3 times the kingdom's standard pension. Every soldier dropped to their knees and swore loyalty on the spot. 3 days later, with 1,000 serfs and a full supply train moving along the Kingdom Road, the convoy crossed into the Cane River and entered Storm Corner Peninsula. Storm Corner was geographically strange. Ocean on 2 sides, impassable mountains to the east. The river as the only western entrance. Beast men armies did not bother invading here because both approaches were terrible. The problems were different. A pack of powerful gale wolves had settled in the northwestern mountains and raided everything in range. A group of Naga sea monsters had migrated to the southern coast and made farming near the water a death sentence. Previous barons had died trying to handle one or both of those threats. On the 3rd day, Levi finally saw Storm Castle on its hilltop, proper 12-meter walls, solid inner keep, an outer section for serf quarters. The reserve company captain who had been watching the empty place practically threw the keys at him, refused lunch, packed up, and his entire unit marched away like the castle was on fire. Levi stood on the walls and looked out over his territory. This was his. He immediately started giving orders. Charlie would handle storing supplies and getting the blacksmiths making farming tools. Jenkins would settle the serfs and tell them they had 3 days before spring planting began. Miss the planting season and everyone would starve. Parker would inspect the entire castle for structural problems. Then Levi and Clay rode out to survey the surroundings. The southern coast was a sheltered bay, nearly like a natural lake, perfect for fishing if the Naga were cleared out. Clay mentioned that Naga lived in family tribes. Drive them out and they typically relocated and did not return for 2 or 3 years. The farmland north and west of the castle totaled about 2,000 acres, which would produce roughly 210 tons of grain a year. Feeding the soldiers and serfs would consume around 350 tons. Even with what Klein had given him, he would barely last 1 year before facing a serious food shortage. That night he sat in the study writing plans. Expand the existing farmland while simultaneously clearing new acres. Build irrigation channels to convert dry fields into higher-yield paddies. For the military, select 182 of the strongest young serfs as recruits. 12 would form a new knight squad using the war horses and iron armor. Train with the flame-breathing method. Roger would lead them, with the life source liquid lent to him as investment, to be repaid with his own merit later. The remaining 170 recruits would train using the silver wolf-breathing method. Captured from Riga, archers, infantry, spearmen, Storm territory would have its first real standing army within months. The next day he called his officers together and laid out the incentive systems that would define Storm Castle's culture. For serfs, 5 consecutive years of completing assigned work, and they became commoners with their own land. For military recruits, half a 9th class merit or reaching the beginner level, and their breathing method earned immediate commoner status and full military benefits that same day. He offered anyone who wanted out a chance to leave right then with no consequences. Nobody moved. Something lit up in the room that had not been there before. The serfs started smiling, probably for the first time in years. Work efficiency doubled almost immediately. They finished plowing all 2,000 acres in 3 days. The entire spring planting process took only 15 days total. And then Storm Territory's first real test arrived, not from the mountains, not from the sea, but from all directions at once. 15 days into spring planting, Levi dumped 21 attribute points into basic archery and pushed it to 2nd rank. Sharpshooter level, the ceiling for basic archery, to recruits had already stood out from the rest. Hill had broken through to apprentice knight using the flame-breathing method, and Martin had reached elite soldier level with the silver wolf method. Both earned commoner status on the spot, which drove everyone else to train harder. But before Levi could appreciate any of it, Parker reported Naga and sea monsters moving inland toward the castle. Levi recalled all the serfs behind the walls and led the new troops south to reinforce the coast defense. What he found was a mess. Parker's veterans were cutting through ordinary sea monsters, but the formation was completely disorganized, and the Naga professionals were hanging back, using the smaller creatures as expendable fodder. Levi made a decision. He would try commanding directly. He reorganized the troops into a shield and spear formation to alternating rows, one thrusting while the other reset, called out a rhythm, and watched the coordinated strikes cut through the sea monsters in a way that none of them had managed before. Even the new recruits calmed down when they had clear, simple orders to follow. Parker and Roger stood watching with their jaws hanging open. When a first-rank Naga professional came within 100 meters, Levi raised his bow and put an arrow through its face. Dead. White light, energy essence. Then he spotted a 2nd-rank Naga and fired twice more. 3rd shot through its throat. 2 kills in under a minute, and the remaining Naga professionals went flat to the ground. They had figured out there was a sharpshooter among the humans. Before Levi could count the day's earnings, Clay's cavalry squad came riding back from the border with news that made his stomach drop. 20 to 30 Gale wolves were heading toward Storm Castle. A 5th-rank wolf was leading them, and Roger reported the Naga were coming back too, and forced to 4th-rank professionals, 3 3rd-rank, over a dozen lower ranks, and nearly 500 sea monsters. Levi almost laughed at the sheer absurdity of it. Not a single enemy for weeks, and now everything decided to attack at once. He made the only rational decision available. Gale wolves could not scale 12-meter walls on an uphill slope. Naga had no siege capability whatsoever. He ordered everyone onto the walls to hold, and went inside to rest. The Naga arrived, sent their sea monsters at the walls twice, accomplished nothing except wasting some of Storm Castle's rocks and logs, and then marched north around the castle. His heart sank. The freshly planted fields were that way. About an hour later, from the north wall, he heard massive wolf howls from the river valley followed by Naga screams. The Gale wolves and Naga had run into each other. By the time they came into view from the west, the Naga were fleeing desperately toward the ocean with the wolf pack chasing them down. Both sides had torn each other apart viciously. When the fighting finally reached the beach below, the Naga sent out their 5th-rank fighter, and the wolves met it head-on. Levi, Clay, and Roger had crept to a hilltop about a kilometer from the shore to watch. The carnage was staggering. Over 500 sea monster corpses covering the entire beach. One of the Naga's 5th-rank fighters dead in the surf. Only 5 wolves remained standing, the 5th-rank leader, to 3rd rank to 2nd rank. And then a trident flew out of the ocean and pinned a 3rd-rank wolf to the ground. A massive 6th-rank Naga leaped onto shore. Levi stared at it. a 7th rank wolf pack, a 6th rank Naga tribe. What kind of territory had he moved into? He was seriously considering relocating when his danger sense detonated. An injured 8th rank black and white giant bear was charging straight toward them from the east, less than 1 kilometer away. A deafening roar shook the air. Levi whispered that it was an 8th rank bear. Clay and Roger went white and pressed themselves flat to the ground. The bear charged past their hill toward the wolves. Within minutes, every remaining wolf was dead. The bear roared at the sky. Then Levi actually got a good look at it, and his brain stopped working completely. Black and white fur, dark circles around both eyes, 5 meters tall. It was a giant panda. It was literally a giant panda. The bear turned and looked straight at their hiding spot. Cold sweat soaked through 3 sets of clothing in approximately 1 second. When it started walking toward them, they jumped on their horses and scattered in 3 directions. The bear watched them for a moment, seemed to think about it, and then leaped. It landed directly in front of Levi, cratering the ground, dropping his horse on the spot. A single roar froze Clay and Roger in place when they tried to turn back. Levi was preparing to die when a young male voice appeared inside his mind. "Relax, kid. If I wanted to kill you, you'd already be dead." Levi stared at the bear in disbelief. Magical beasts supposedly needed 9th rank power for telepathy. He called off Clay and Roger, put on his most respectful face, and said the only reasonable thing available. "Whatever you need, big brother. I will do my best to help." The bear gave him an amused look, then made his request. "Go kill the Wolf King for me." Levi's expression froze. He managed an awkward smile and admitted he could not do that. After some back and forth, the panda, who introduced himself as Storm Panda and insisted on being called Panda, not Big Brother Bear, laid out his actual cooperation terms. Human liquor, as much as possible, fire attribute magical beast crystals, 6th rank or above, to help restore his strength, and keep watch on the Gale Wolf King who was close to breaking through to 8th rank. Levi thought about his situation honestly. He was broke, weak, and his only professional fighters were the 1st rank knights and an injured 4th rank subhuman, still bedridden in the castle. A 6th rank fire crystal cost 200,000 to 500,000 gold. He could not afford even one. But when Panda suggested maybe they could not cooperate after all, panic cut through every other thought. Levi blurted out that he could brew the strongest liquor in the human world. And everything changed. The moment he said strongest liquor, Panda crouched down with sparkling eyes, suddenly looking exactly like an excited child who had just been promised candy. He forgot about the crystals and the Wolf King entirely. He had only ever had terrible beastman fruit wine. Even basic distilled spirits would blow his mind. Panda announced he was coming back to the castle. Levi pointed out carefully that a 5-meter bear might scare the serfs to death. Without a word, Panda shrank himself down to the size of a human head, small, round, absolutely adorable, and hopped up onto Levi's shoulder. "This work, let's go." Levi was stunned. High-tier magical beasts could change their size freely. He rode back toward Storm Castle with an 8th rank magical beast sitting on his shoulder, like a pet. As they rode, Levi noticed all the corpses on the beach and in the river valley, wolves, Naga professionals, hundreds of sea monsters, and asked Panda if he wanted any of it. "Wind and water attribute, useless to me. No magic cores either. But save me the 5th rank wolf's meat." Levi's eyes lit up. All of those bodies, Gale wolf pelts, bones, magic cores, Naga scales worth a fortune in materials, sea monster hides that made excellent enchanted leather, were his for the taking. An incredible windfall from other people's fighting. And then Panda mentioned casually that he had already warned the Naga this was his territory. If they did not want to die, they had better leave. With the Naga gone, the southern bay was open. With Panda present, the Gale wolf problem was managed. Levi's territory could finally develop properly. That night he set up a crude distillery in the kitchen using sealed clay pots, bamboo tubes for vapor, wet cloth for cooling, and everything he remembered about basic distillation from a chemistry C. Last he had barely paid attention to on Earth. He and Charlie worked until deep into the night, adjusting temperatures, experimenting with the terrible cheap wine they had on hand. Finally, past midnight, they produced something around 40 to 50% alcohol. The taste was rough, but it was leagues beyond anything this world had ever produced. He grabbed the jars and walked straight to Panda's courtyard. The bear was dead asleep until Levi opened the jar, and the smell hit him. Panda shot upright, grabbed the jar without a word, and downed 5 pounds of spirits in a few gulps. Then he asked for more. Levi explained this was everything he had, and that he needed to send someone to Grey Fortress for more base wine. Panda was thrilled. He offered to let Levi work for him and promised nobody would dare bully him. Clay, standing nearby, was still visibly in shock. They had tamed an 8th rank magical beast with cheap alcohol distilled in a kitchen. He quietly told Levi not to overthink it and just be glad they were alive. The morning meeting brought the full accounting of what had fallen into their hands. Clay's teams had collected 28 Gale Wolf corpses, 36 Naga professional bodies, and 12 sea monster professionals from the battlefield. When the room heard that the pelts, scales, and magic cores came to roughly 15,100 gold coins, everyone went silent. Nobody there had ever seen that kind of money in their lives. One day of other people's battles had made Storm territory rich overnight. Levi immediately converted it into military strength before anything else. To new companies needed equipping. Enchanted armor for Clay and Roger. 500 young male serfs and 500 young female serfs purchased from Klein's contacts. And 10 tons of cheap wine for Panda's supply, which was arguably the most critical purchase of all. He also sent Clay back to Grey Fortress to sell the materials and handle the shopping list. But before Clay left, Levi had one more priority. Among the serfs being resettled and organized, his need for educated people was becoming urgent. He found John among the freed serfs, a merchant from a kingdom tens of thousands of kilometers to the south. His ship wrecked months ago by a sea dragon, who had wandered the wrong direction and been captured by the same bandits Levi had raided. John's real value was his profession, a second-rank potion master and second-rank mage. He could teach mage basics, brew specialized training potions from the formula Levi had captured from Riga, and produce a steady income stream of sellable potions. Levi offered him a 10-year contract with fair terms, work exclusively, and at the end of a decade, help getting home or 50,000 gold in compensation. John was relieved. Contract arrangements were standard practice where he came from. The knowledge exchange that followed was one of the most significant moments in Levi's new life. He gave John everything he had, all 4 of the combat methods he had collected, the spell scroll, the archery technique, and the wolf fire potion formula. In return, John gave him his 3rd-rank lava meditation method, 3 0-rank spells, 1 1st-rank small fireball, and his complete potion knowledge. And buried in that potion knowledge was a formula that nearly made Levi jump out of his chair. The Fading Potion, the formula for the Warrior Advancement Potion, that the great noble houses of the Alpha Kingdom monopolized. In the Alpha Kingdom, controlling this recipe meant controlling an unlimited supply of warrior professionals. In John's homeland, warriors considered it a cheap product for lower classes. Levi stared at the formula for a long time. Everything he needed had just arrived in one conversation. Within days, John had successfully brewed 28 doses of wolf fire potion using the Gale Wolf materials, stockpiled at Storm Castle. The potion was inferior by standard metrics, 30% cultivation boost, but only usable 5 times before interfering with rank breakthroughs. For most professionals, it was worse than regular potions. For Levi, who had attribute points to handle every breakthrough, it was perfect. He took his first dose and trained the flame-breathing method non-stop for an entire day. The breathing method jumped from 10 to 41 points in a single session. The territory was accelerating, but Storm Corner was not done testing him yet. While running training sessions and managing construction, his upgraded precognition suddenly fired twice in one day for the first time. 11 ogres heading toward Storm Castle from the northwest. 1 4th rank, to 3rd rank, 3 2nd rank, 5 1st rank. Ogres were among the strongest species in the wilderness. Adults started at 1st rank strength, and raw power exceeded even 2nd rank human professionals. They ate everything, including intelligent beings' brains, which supposedly made them smarter. Levi deployed almost everything Storm Castle had: Roger's Half-Knight Squad, Parker's Infantry Company, Jenkins' Spear Company, both archer squads, Mia, and even John, who volunteered when he heard about the ogres. Ogre body parts were valuable potion ingredients extinct on the southern continent, and he wanted one captured alive for research. Levi just laughed at that. The terrain 8 kilometers northwest was perfect, a low valley between deforested ridges. He sent Roger ahead to lure the ogres in and hit everything else on the high ground. Half an hour later, Roger came galloping back with 11 howling ogres right behind him. The moment they entered the valley, the archer squads opened fire from both ridges, to volleys, and every ogre except the 4th rank leader was already wounded. Levi personally shot down a 1st rank and a 2nd rank, then switched to the 3rd rank enchanted bow and aimed for the big one. The ogres tried to retreat, splitting their formation perfectly. Mia charged the 4th rank leader, while infantry and spear companies boxed in the middle group. John's fireballs kept them pinned when they threatened to break through. Levi drew the 3rd rank enchanted bow fully and fired at the 4th rank ogre. It dodged, which was exactly what Mia was waiting for. She activated the 3rd rank enchanted short sword, and cut straight through its bone club and its skull in one strike. 11 ogres down, 7 infantry, and 8 spearmen wounded, 3 dead. Levi felt the weight of the 3 deaths settle into his chest. This world was brutal. More people would die for him in the future. What he could do was honor the promise he had made them. He knelt beside the dying men and spoke loudly enough for everyone around him to hear. The 2 soldiers with families at Grey Fortress would have their full pensions delivered. Every last coin, and once the territory was stable enough, their families would be brought home. Then he turned to the 3rd man, a serf soldier with no family, who had fought and died for Storm Castle. He declared him a free commoner. He named the valley Kemby Valley, burial ground for all who fell defending the territory. He announced that Storm Castle would build a hall of heroes, every fallen soldier's name inscribed and remembered for generations. All 3 smiled at the same moment and passed away peacefully. Every soldier around him dropped to one knee, tears on their faces. "We swear loyalty unto death." The cry echoed across the valley and did not stop echoing for a long time afterward. John, standing at the edge of the formation watching, could not quite reconcile what he was seeing with every principle of aristocratic self-interest he had ever observed. He had no idea whether following this particular lord was a blessing or a curse. He was starting to suspect it might be both. Back at Storm Castle, Levi checked his panel. 121 energy essence points from the ogre battle, bringing his total to 146. He could not use them yet, 2nd rank knight first, but the number was growing. And then the territory started giving back in ways he had not expected. During a survey north of the castle, John suddenly stopped at a patch of thin saplings and got very excited. Arrow trees, 2nd rank magical materials used to make 1st and 2nd rank magic arrows. 1 to 3 gold coins apiece at Grey Fortress, over 1,000 of them. Annual renewable income of roughly 2,000 gold from a single grove, to kilometers from the castle walls. Another windfall falling directly into his lap from other people's forgotten resources. He stationed guards on the grove immediately. The southern bay came next. Clay surveyed it while the Naga were relocating and found the largest island held exposed iron ore. Not a small deposit. John assessed it as at least a medium-sized iron mine, probably larger, with a potentially massive deposit beneath the seabed. Iron meant weapons, armor, tools, trade goods, and the ability to stop buying them from anyone else. 300 serfs were organized for mining operations on the island within the day. Then a coastal survey found water fairy grass for meditation potions near the river estuary. Firetail ducks worth significant money for both their feathers and nutritional value. And during a sea monster battle near the coast, a wounded young unicorn whale barely 2 meters long floating among the dead. John was thrilled. Adult unicorn whales reached 5th rank and over 15 meters, essentially living ocean warships. He tried to form a spirit contract with it for 2 hours and got nowhere. The whale refused to cooperate with anyone. Levi tried instead, following John's instructions to enter the whale's spiritual sea. Immediately a child's voice screamed at him to go away. He tried the friendly approach first, offered fish, offered protection, offered to find its parents. The whale called him a liar. That annoyed him. He dropped the friendly act entirely and told the little whale plainly that if it would not cooperate, he would skin it for a seat cushion, pop out its eyes for marbles, stew its heart for soup, and barbecue the rest. The whale caved completely, did not even negotiate conditions, just opened its spiritual sea and let Levi stamp his mark. He felt a tiny bit guilty afterward, like someone who had just bullied a frightened child into submission. But it worked, and the moment the little whale, named Littlekun, understood it was not going to die, it happily thanked him and completely forgot he had just threatened to turn it into soup. Storm territory now had a future ocean guardian growing in its bay, and Levi had come back from a coastal survey with a whale, to types of valuable plants, and a flock of unconscious ducks. He was starting to understand something about this territory. Every dangerous thing that had tried to kill him had left something valuable behind. But the most dangerous thing was still coming, and it came wearing a human face. Clay's trading expedition to Grey Fortress was ambushed on the return journey by pig-headed beastmen, who captured all 20 of the craftsman slaves he had just purchased. Levi marched out with 2 infantry companies, a spear company, and 2 archer squads. Clay had tracked the beastmen into the Grey Mountains while sending back for reinforcements. And by the time Levi arrived, the pig heads were only hours away, heading back the same route with both the slaves and another 300 serfs they had taken from a bandit camp. The ambush was textbook. Clay confirmed the pig heads were following the same path. Creel's company dug pit traps. Parker and Jenkins set up on both flanks. The moment the pig heads entered the kill zone, Levi opened with the enchanted bow and dropped the 2nd rank scout leader. Before the man had time to react, Mia took the 3rd rank chief, Levi kept him pinned with arrows. And when the chief finally broke free to charge, Mia intercepted him, and Levi put an enchanted arrow through his chest. Then Mia cut off both his legs. Clay killed the 2 remaining first-rank fighters. With all their leaders dead, the beast men panicked and ran forward, straight into Creel's pit traps. 2 soldiers dead, 280 serfs rescued. Among the bandits also captured were the first-rank warriors named Gady and George, who insisted they were not really bandits at all. They had been framed by their old captain Riga, the same man Levi had killed weeks before, and had spent 2 years in the wilderness without committing a single crime, surviving through farming and keeping the serfs under their protection safe. Clay interviewed the rescued serfs separately. Every account matched perfectly. Honest fighters who had held their principles for 2 years under impossible conditions. Exactly the kind of people Levi needed. He offered them 10-year contracts and the news that Odin had been transferred and Riga was dead. Both men went pale with shock, then dropped to their knees and swore loyalty. But the real danger had not shown itself yet. His newly upgraded precognition, extended to 2 kilometers after the 3rd-rank bandit kill, had given him enough energy essence to upgrade it, fired a second warning that day. A 3rd-rank knight with archer master skills was watching him from a mountaintop 2 kilometers to the north. If his range had not just doubled, he would never have detected the threat at all. A 3rd-rank enchanted bow could kill from over 1,000 meters. Levi's old detection range was half that. Clay's face went white before he controlled it. He recognized immediately what they were dealing with: the Divine Eye Society, a professional assassination organization. Their members trained in an eye technique that gave them extreme long-range vision. They had been mostly driven from the Alpha Kingdom 50 years ago for assassinating royalty, and anyone caught hiring them faced severe punishment. Odin had just escalated from sending bandits to hiring an assassin organization. There was only one option: get into the forest where dense trees would block line of sight, then close the distance. Levi had the main group march visibly into the southern forest while he, Clay, and Mia hung back and set up an ambush inside the tree line. The assassin followed. He paused at the edge, wondered briefly if Levi had somehow detected him at 2 kilometers, decided that was impossible for a first-rank knight, and came in. When he reached Clay's position, Clay fired the magic crossbow point blank. The assassin erupted with knight energy and blocked, but the explosion still sent him flying several meters. Clay charged back and, despite being wounded, trying to keep the man focused on him, the assassin shot an arrow that pierced clean through Clay's left shoulder. But it worked. While they exchanged fire, Mia had closed the distance and locked the assassin into melee combat, refusing to let him gain range. They fought for nearly half an hour. The assassin was accumulating wounds, and the outcome seemed certain. Then his eyes turned blood red and started bleeding. When Mia met his gaze, she froze for one instant. He slashed at her throat. The slavery law ring hidden under her collar deflected it, then cut a long gash across her chest. Pain snapped her out of it. She forced him back and dropped to one knee, hand pressed to her chest. She had come within one wrong moment of dying. Cornered now by a sharpshooter, a magic crossbow, and a wounded 4th-rank fighter who refused to stay down, the assassin made his decision. Kill the controller. The enslaved subhuman would lose direction. He rushed straight at Levi. Levi drew his sword and waited. He shouted for Mia and Clay to attack simultaneously from both sides. The assassin trusted his 3rd-rank enchanted armor to absorb both hits, and burst forward at full speed. Exactly what Levi wanted. He activated extreme speed and charged straight back at him. They passed each other in a blur. The assassin had just enough time to register one word: innate talent, before his head fell from his shoulders. No half measures this time. The blade took it clean off. 100 energy essence points flowed into him, enough to upgrade extreme speed to medium level, tripling his speed boost instead of doubling. Clay's body was already being helped up by Mia. Levi ordered the assassin's body destroyed and the evidence hidden. Clay thought turning the body in would guarantee Odin's downfall and earn them a 7th-class merit. Levi explained the calculation. The Divine Eye Society was far more dangerous than Odin. If they revealed publicly that they had killed one of the Society's operatives, out here in remote frontier territory, the organization would simply send another, stronger. Better to let them wonder what happened to their man. The assassin's gear alone was worth the silence: full 3rd-rank enchanted equipment, 3,000 golden notes, and the documents. A 3rd-rank archery manual that would carry Levi all the way to 4th rank, and an alchemy formula for the wolf fire potion that required the Gale wolf materials he already had stockpiled. He gave Mia the 2nd-rank armor and the 3rd-rank short sword, and gave Clay an 8th-class merit for his bravery in charging a 3rd-rank assassin with nothing but a crossbow. The bandit hideout raid 2 days later was almost casual by comparison. One 1st-rank warrior guarding it, a handful of fighters, and 682 serfs freed. At the Cane River, Klein's delivery convoy arrived with the supplies Levi had ordered. He handed over the bandit evidence and Odin's guard captain's body as proof of the ambush plot. Klein's men recognized the captain immediately and rushed back to deliver it. Back at Storm Castle, Levi spent 101 energy essence points upgrading extreme speed to medium level. Triple speed boost. His movement exceeded any 3rd rank knight and approached 75% of 4th rank. Combined with 3rd rank enchanted armor and his upgraded archery, he could face a 3rd rank opponent head-on and expect to win. He reorganized the military with all the new manpower. 2 more infantry companies, a spear company, a full archery company. In less than 2 months, Storm territory had grown from nothing into nearly half a battalion's worth of fighting strength. He had salt refinery workshops running, distilleries producing pandas liquor supply and a future trade commodity, an iron mine producing raw ore on the island, arrow tree groves under guard, water fairy plants transplanted into the bay, and a young unicorn whale growing in the sheltered waters. John's mage assessment had confirmed Levi had genuine fire affinity, and after a week of attempting the lava meditation method with his modern analytical approach, he had entered a meditation state for an entire day. What had taken John 3 months had taken Levi 1 week. Knight, archer, and now mage. The foundation was set across 3 separate disciplines, and attribute points would accelerate all of them. A further meditation session had revealed earth affinity as well. 2 elements, more abilities, more options, faster growth, a positive cycle with no obvious ceiling. Storm territory was not a death trap anymore. It was becoming something that nobody in the Alpha Kingdom had seen before, a frontier holding that was growing stronger faster than the threats surrounding it. A man who had arrived with nothing, exiled by politics and set up to fail, had turned a graveyard posting into a foundation. The Gale Wolves had been neutralized by a panda who liked strong liquor. The Naga had been driven from the bay by that same panda's reputation. The assassins sent to silence him had left behind everything he needed to become harder to kill. Every enemy had inadvertently given him something. And Odin, the man behind most of it, was already transferred out of Grey Fortress. Politically damaged, financially ruined, stripped of his loyal officers, he had gone after Levi and accidentally handed him a 4th rank warrior, a set of enchanted gear, 1,000 gold, 3 combat manuals, and a magic bracelet. That was the shape of how things went when you tried to destroy someone who treated every threat as a resource problem to solve. Levi had not survived Storm Corner by being the strongest person in it. He had survived by thinking faster, by honoring people when the world expected lords to discard them, by trusting the right people at the right time, and by staying alive long enough for the system to do what it promised. 1 attribute point per day. No rank he could not reach, given enough time. The territory that had killed every baron before him had not broken him. He had broken it instead, cracked it open and found out what was living inside it. Wolves that became materials, Naga that became cleared coastline, an 8th rank magical beast that became an ally over a jar of distilled spirits. Storm territory's first winter would come eventually, and with it new enemies and new crises nobody could predict. But the baron who would meet that winter was not the same frightened man who had woken up in a moving carriage with a splitting headache and no idea where he was. He was someone who had learned 1 brutal lesson at a time, that surviving long enough was indistinguishable from winning.